Hey, welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. Yours truly here, the Fat Guy. Most people call me Brett Mason. I'm so happy that you have decided to listen to the show today. Look, if you enjoy the shows, if you enjoy the information, especially if you're somebody that had success, like I have so many people send me messages. I had somebody else post on my timeline. I had two people, I think, yesterday post on my timeline. They were very excited about the success that they had, and they were thanking me for the inspiration and the information. If that's you, consider sharing. Like when you see the podcast show up in your feed, in your Facebook feed or whatever, click the share button and share it so all your friends. You never know whose life you may change. You never know who may have been frustrated their entire life, and this could be the information that changes it. And if you saw this on other forms of social media, or maybe you just, you listen on the Spreaker app, which you can download for free. That's my most recommended way of listening. Spreaker. It's a free app, Spreaker. Download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast, favorite it, follow it, and you'll not only get all updates when a new show comes out, but you can just scroll down and see all previous shows. But no matter what show you're listening to, in the Spreaker app, you'll see a little button where you can share it. You can share it to social media. If you're a Twitter person, do that. You honestly don't know who you'll help. So there's a couple of pieces of homework for you. And I guess lastly would be follow us on social media. So if you're not following on Facebook or Instagram or the Gram, as the cool people like to call it, or Twitter or Snapchat, follow me, Fat Guy Podcast. That's the username, Fat Guy Podcast. That's the username on all those social medias. And I highly recommend Snapchat because I document everything I eat. Interestingly enough, I'm going to be going to Biloxi for Christmas, and I'm not going to say I'm going to stay keto in Biloxi, but I'm going to stay pretty close. And I'll probably do a show just about that. And then on my Snapchat, I'll actually be, you'll be able to see everything I eat while I'm in Biloxi. So that might be kind of interesting, because people ask me all the time, how do you survive when you're away? And so the short answer to that is I plan for times I'm away. Like this week, I'm fasting. So I'm going to try to fast several days this week. That'll put me in a deficit up front, calorie-wise, or just, sheer food-wise. And then the other way I'm going to cope is by trying to manage how much bad stuff I eat. So I'm going to try to really fill up on the keto-friendly stuff, lots of meats, I think, lots of fats. We'll get some good veggies in. Try to fill up on that, and then I'll allow myself a dessert that I shouldn't have. A dessert that has sugar in it. I will, because I think you have to live. But I'll say the flip side to that, and this has turned into I don't mean that to be this show, because we're going to get into what the name of the show is, which is talking about calories in versus calorie out and why that's a big pile of crap. But preparing for things like Christmases, birthdays, the preparation doesn't, how you survive that doesn't happen that day. It happens weeks and months in advance. You've stayed the course, and you've developed good habits that you can fall right back into, habits that come naturally to you. So when Thanksgiving comes and you mess up and eat too much like I did, and you gain 5 pounds like I did, you can go just back to eating right again, and the weight will come back off, and you'll be back on track. So it's not just deciding what to do on the holiday. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep in that, because that's a different show. And you may be listening to this in June. That's the beautiful thing about podcasts. People hear them right when they're posted, but then people also hear them, weeks, months, even years later. So I don't want to get too much into the holiday thing. Follow us on the social media, though. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. So one of the biggest lies ever told to overweight people, and this is why it's so frustrating for overweight people. One of the biggest lies ever told is you got to eat less and move more. And generally they tell you to count calories, right? And, that could be all over the map. I've seen people tell people to eat 800 calories a day. I'm pretty sure on The Biggest Loser, I read enough accounts of that. I'm pretty sure on The Biggest Loser, they have those people eating 800 or 1,000 calories a day, which is crazy. That's a starvation level of calories. You're better off just fasting. Then they work them to death for 4 to 6 to 8 hours a day in the gym. And of course, all those people's metabolism suffer. Their adrenals get burnt out. They have all kind of horrible things happen. And the report came out last year, and they followed up from what was it, season 1 or season 3 contestants. All those contestants had gained the weight back and more. They all said it was impossible to lose weight now. They're having to eat such a small amount of calories to just even try to not get too big. So that's definitely not the way to go. But let's talk about calories then. So you'll see it abbreviated CICO, Kiko, Psycho, however you want to pronounce it. Calories in, calories out. The problem with calories in, calories out is it doesn't take into account what happens once what calories are eaten. Now, if you're a healthy person with a healthy metabolism, and you don't have insulin resistance, you don't have prediabetes, you don't have type 2 diabetes, you don't have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, you don't have a dysregulated hormone system because you have so much fat and adipose tissue that it has completely dysregulated your hormones. If you don't have all these problems, then yeah, pretty much the calories you eat, you can calculate your activity, and that'll be how many calories you'll burn. If you're a person like most of us, like I'd say 99% of people are, and you have a messed up metabolism, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, tons of adipose tissue, obviously, because you're overweight, which is messing up all your hormones. Whether that be everything from cortisol to insulin to, ghrelin, all that becomes affected by fat cells. Then the calories in can't be equally equated to calories burned because your body doesn't allocate those calories correctly. And I've talked about this in other podcasts, but I want to talk about it briefly so I'm crystal clear to you about this. So you're a person with metabolic syndrome. Now, whatever stage you're at or quote unquote diagnosed at, because most people who are diagnosed type 2 diabetic have been diabetic for a long time. Most people that are considered to be pre-diabetic are already diabetic and have been pre-diabetic for a long time. It doesn't get diagnosed until it's out of hand. So no matter what stage you're at, whether you even know what stage you're at, and if you're carrying, that's a sign of metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. It's carrying all the weight around the belly. Okay? Now I'm not talking about skinny fat. That's a similar thing, and pretty much. Well, let's just don't get into that, because then people will be looking at their bellies and go, oh, I don't fit that. This don't apply to me. Pretty much if you're overweight, it probably applies to you because you've been eating the standard American diet, which is too much sugar and especially high in fructose. And so here we are. So if you have this problem, I'm sorry for the yawning, and I'm not going to start it over because it's just what's happening. What's causing it, I think, is I have a little bit of stuffiness, and so it's causing my body to try to get air because I'm talking so much. So just bear with me, okay? And I apologize in advance. So in a dysregulated metabolism, you got any stage whatsoever, that metabolic syndrome. When this food comes in, it's high caloric, which most everybody eats, and it's also very high carb, and your body can't deal with it. It's not just calories in and then calories out. Now, in a healthy person, all this glucose and stuff that comes in, it gets absorbed directly into the cells. Insulin grabs it, escorts it to the cells, and it gets shunted right into the cells or into the liver, either one, for either immediate use later down the road, or use even later down the road. Okay, it's stored and it's ready at a moment's notice. And glucose is a powerfully quick and efficient instant fuel source. Not the cleanest fuel source, and if you have a messed up metabolism, it's not a good fuel source for you at all. Nevertheless, it does have those benefits. That completely is opposite of an overweight person who has any stage of metabolic syndrome, even from the slightest insulin resistance. So your cells don't readily accept that glucose that you've just eaten, okay? It doesn't readily accept it. You have insulin resistance. It gets shuttled off to the liver. It gets converted into fatty acids and fat, and it gets stored. It gets stored on your body. So there's no amount of calories in, calorie out calculation that you can do that will account for that, because it doesn't get burned. If they were to change the name of the CICO to calories in, calories burned, then it'd be a good equation. All you need is the calories you burn to be greater than the calories that you eat. Okay? If they would change it to make more sense, because people with metabolic syndrome aren't burning those calories. Your body is actually stealing those calories away, shuttling them off to the liver. They're being converted to fat and stored immediately. And so your body never gets a chance to burn them. Burning them isn't even an option. And that's just from eating regular glucose, That's just from consuming regular glucose that is readily uptaken into cells with the assistance of insulin. Now, you complicate that further by considering that most of the sugar that we eat in America now is fructose, whether it be in the form of high fructose corn syrup or all the other forms of sugar that they are putting in packages now. This is where it's extracted from fruit juice, whatever they want to call it, and they name sugars all kinds of things. It's mostly fructose. Now, fructose is not readily absorbed into the cells like glucose is. You can't just take insulin and just escort right into the cell. It has to go through this rather complicated process in the liver to be converted into energy, and the liver doesn't know how to deal with it, especially when you overwhelm it. And so your liver instantly converts it into glucose no matter what, or into fat no matter what, and stores it. Again, if you're eating a high fructose diet, a diet with a lot of high fructose in it, which most everybody is, then you don't stand a chance. Your calories out are not going to be equal to the calories in, because those calories are not burned. They're getting shuttled away to fat. You never get the chance to burn them. And because your insulin stays high, because of your insulin resistance, your metabolic syndrome, the body never releases that fat burn. It just keeps it and hangs on to it. Now, in the short term, you can drastically cut your calories and you can lose weight, because all those systems I just mentioned are still in place, but you're cutting them so low that you are having an effect on that, and it can begin to work. But here's what's going to happen. Your body's going to fight you tooth and nail on that. It's going to be after you. And you'll eventually not be able to win. Eventually your body, the yearnings, the cravings, the hunger, and everything it throws at you will eventually win. Ketogenic diet isn't like that. Ketogenic diet actually takes hunger away. It actually takes cravings away. The more you do the ketogenic diet, the easier it gets. And since you're not pouring glucose or fructose, really, any kind of sugar in the body to speak of, you don't have all those problems. Okay? You don't have problems with ghrelin. You don't have problems with associated with the hormone stuff. And that stuff begins to heal at that point, okay? And you get to the point where your body is actually starting releasing some of that fat to be burned. So you're getting closer and closer to a calories in, calories out thing. But it happens because you don't continue to overload the body with sugar. Because as long as you overload the body with sugar, it doesn't get to set aside these other symptoms, think about them, and come up with an efficient, healthy, well-working machine. You just don't get it. So you get this ill-contrived machine that handles it in a way that isn't optimum, and it makes people fat. It makes fat people fatter, and it makes us all more frustrated. So anytime somebody tells you, "Oh, you just need to count your calories, man," you tell them that no, losing weight is not calories in, calories out. It's calories in, calories burned, and it's highly dependent on where you're at in your metabolic system. And if you're overweight, your metabolic system is probably messed up, either marginally or a lot, like mine. And the fast is going to continue to go on. It is not calories in, calories out. It's calories in, calories burned. And depending on our level of internal health, we all burn those calories at a different rate from a different source. Thanks for listening to today's episode. You can download us and check us out on the Spreaker app, Spreaker. Download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast, add us up on there. Of course, you prefer to do regular podcasts, that's fine. If you already have your iOS podcasting app, or you already have an app you love on your Android, Google phone, or whatever, fine, use those. We're in Apple Podcasts, so we're listed right there. Just search for Fat Guy Podcast, and you can add us that way if that works better for you. And add us on social media. Fat Guy Podcast is his username, and that works no matter where you're at, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or my favorite, Snapchat. Thanks so much for listening today. Share this. You could change somebody who looks at your news feed's life. Literally.